Alright guys, so in this video I want to show you a couple techniques for warping a track in Ableton 9. This will also work in Ableton 8 as well, as they both work pretty much identical. So whether you got 8 or 9, just follow with me and I'll show you an easy way to warp your tracks. So the first thing that I recommend is usually you're going to start with the warp marker off. And the way that's going to happen is if you come in here to your preferences and into your record warp launch tab here, you'll find auto warp long samples. And you're going to turn that off. And the reason I turn that off is because sometimes it'll just put markers in the wrong locations and you'll end up having to remove them anyway. Okay. So that's why we start kind of from scratch. So when you turn on warp on a track that's never been warped before, what you're going to get is a yellow marker right at the very beginning of the track. And this doesn't necessarily put it right on the beginning beat. In this case it does, but in some cases it's not going to be accurate. Okay? So what you normally want to do is find your first beat location. So lucky for us, our first beat is already set. But if we had to search for the first beat, let's just say that this was the first one here, we would come in close and kind of find the location here and set our warp marker by double clicking, and that's our start point. And then what we would do, if this was a starting beat, we would right click and set that to 1. That way everything after it is going to be on the beat grid that's accurate. This would be 1, and then we would know that 4 beats later is going to be the second bar. So that's what you would do if this was not correct in the beginning. And then once you set your first marker, then you would remove the very beginning marker just by double clicking again. But since it's already accurate, we'll just go back to this right here. And now what we're going to do is just kind of work on getting this pretty close. And this looks like it's dialed in here. And I come into, let's say, the 4th bar. As you can see now, it's starting to get off. So what I want to do is kind of hover over where this gray marker is, and I can just kind of drag this over. And it's still not dead on, but that's good enough for now. I usually go to bar 8 now and pull this over, and then I'll double click on this one. And then from bar 8, if things are looking lined up, then I'll double that and go to bar 17. And even though this is the very beginning, sometimes you might want to put it a little bit closer to the transient here. So I'll just put it like right here, pull it over. That'll be close enough. And then from here, oftentimes you can just simply right click and set warp from here. And if we're lucky, it'll kind of lock in the rest of the track. So what I'll do here is I'll go to bar 32, and that looks pretty accurate. I'll go to bar 65. This is a little bit off, so I'll just double click here. So you don't have to use its suggested markers. You can double click where you want. All right. Another approach you can take is you can use their marker like so, double click on it. And then if you hold shift, click on the marker and drag, then you could fine tune where the wave will sit with the marker. Okay. And now that we've done that, we can do another right click and warp from here just to see if it corrects anything afterwards. That's pretty close. I know we're going to have to move it, but I'm going to go further because it's pretty close. And I'm going to just kind of move this one here. There we go. Just like so. And as you warp, it gets more and more accurate. As you can see, it has detected this is 120 BPM. So It's already probably pretty accurate. So when it's like dead on like this, you can usually come to the end and just double click or double check one of the last transients here, one of the last kicks or whatever. So I'm just going to drag that over. And now I'm pretty confident that this is going to be accurate. So the next thing that I'll do is I'll turn on the metronome. Let me turn the volume down just a little bit. And I'll just kind of use this speaker. As you can see, when you drag below the loop marker, you get the speaker. And you could drag it in different locations to have it just play there. So as you can hear, the metronome is lined up with the song all the way through. So that would be considered a finished song. And then you want to make sure to hit save here, because if you don't hit save, the next time you drag the song in, you'll have to warp it again. So we'll just hit save, and then we will be done with that. So that's a pretty simple approach, and you can do this pretty quickly. The next circumstance might be that there's kind of a musical part in the beginning of the song without like a kick drum. So I'll show you how to warp this. It's pretty simple. So we'll turn our warp on like usual. And in this case, we're not really sure if this beginning warp marker is accurate or not, but we'll find out later. But what I want to do now is just find the first downbeat. So I'll just turn off the metronome. Okay, so just as I thought, this location right here is the first beat. So I'm going to double click here, then just come in closer. It's pretty accurate, but I'm going to click, hold shift, and then drag, just so we get a little closer to that transient. And then I'm going to right click and set this to 1. All right. So we're not worrying about anything behind it right now. And then the next thing we want to do is we want to remove this first warp marker, because this will affect the mathematics as we warp and could affect how easy it is to warp afterwards. So from here, we just want to check in the first bar and see how close it is. And as we can see, it's off. This is going to need to be dragged to the second bar here. And it's still a little bit off, so I'm going to hit shift and just move that marker over a little bit. And then I'll double it and go to 4 bars. It's still off, as you can see, so I'll just double click and drag. And then I'll go to 9 here. Once again, this is off as well. And I'll drag that over. And as you can see over here, it's put this at 118 even, so that's probably the tempo. So one thing that we can do, there's a couple things that we can do. We could either do right click and warp from here, but what is often more accurate when it's kind of found a tempo is to go up here and change the tempo to 118, because that's what it says down here. All right. And then when you right click here, you have an option to warp from here, start at 118. So I'll do that. And now I'll check and see how things are looking. That looks pretty accurate. At 17, I'll go to 32, or basically 33. That looks accurate. As you can see, it's setting its marker a little bit before, but the transient is actually like right on the bar, so that's great. So I'll double that and go to 65. That's still looking good. So I'm pretty sure this whole track is lining up pretty well. So I'm going to go to the end here. And it's just a little hair off. So I'm going to just come here, double click, and then drag it over. And that will line everything up in between. So now we've got this part of the song warped, okay? Now what we want to look at is what's happening beforehand. And as we look here, we see that this is an even 16 bars, okay? So that's actually a good sign, because any multiple of 4 bars is probably accurate. So what I'm going to do, I can come in here. As you can see, this is like the very first transient here and nothing before it. So I'm going to take this here and I'm just going to drag it over to the -16, just like so. And I'm betting that just by doing that, it's going to line all of these 16 bars up. So once again, we'll use the metronome now and we'll play through and see how things sound. So let's start in here. Sounds good so far. And it sounds pretty accurate all the way through, so that's really good. So if everything sounds accurate from the beginning, then what we're going to do now is now we can come back to this first warp marker, right click, and set this to 1. And now you've got your whole track warped properly. So that's what you do if your first beat is not in the beginning of the track. And then you just hit save, and you're good. A couple other things that I'll let you know about is if you have a couple markers here. So let's say that you've got something that's off, right? So let's say that this is accurate, this is accurate. So everything before this is accurate, everything after this is accurate, but this one beat seems off. So let's say it's over here somewhere, right? Well, because you have these on the ends, it's not going to affect anything before or after. So now you can just shift in between, as you can see, and just affect this middle area. So that can be very helpful if you've got like one certain beat that's not hitting on the right part. And that's normally going to happen with live drummers and stuff like that, as opposed to electronic songs. But that's a good thing to know as well. You could also highlight by clicking on one, holding shift, clicking on another, and then you could actually move all the markers at once, as you can see. So those are a couple other tricks that you can do. I hope this video is clear and easy and gives you a little confidence in your ability to warp songs. All right, guys, have a good one. Take care. Hey guys, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And until next time, happy music making.